The orientation hall of the Galactic Alignment Program buzzed with the electric energy of 300 excited voices as participants gathered for the pairing announcement that would define the next year of their lives. Ethan Cole stood among the throng, a steaming cup of coffee cradled in his hands, trying desperately to ignore the knot of anxiety coiling tighter in his stomach with each passing moment. Around him, celebrations erupted as people discovered their matches. His friend Marcus beamed with genuine joy, having been paired with a gentle Valerian scientist whose research-focused personality aligned perfectly with his own methodical nature. Sarah embraced the diplomatic Zenthari specialist assigned to her, their shared passion for cultural exchange evident in their animated conversation. Everyone seemed to be receiving exactly what they'd expected: compatible, reasonable, peaceful partners chosen by the most sophisticated matching algorithm in galactic history, a system that had achieved a remarkable 99.7% success rate. "Dude, you're going to love this," Marcus said, clapping Ethan on the shoulder with characteristic enthusiasm. "The system is absolutely amazing. It literally analyzed my entire psychological profile and found someone who thinks exactly like me. We've already exchanged 300 messages." "That's great," Ethan replied, and he meant it sincerely. Marcus deserved something good, something that would complement his quiet dedication to science. "I'm happy for you. What about me, though? Have you checked your pairing yet?" "Not yet," Ethan said, gesturing toward the stage where GAP officials were making final preparations for the ceremony to begin. "Waiting for the official announcement. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. This is a year-long commitment working closely with an alien partner. High stakes for galactic peace and all that." "You'll be fine," Marcus assured him with the confidence of someone whose own pairing had already validated the system's accuracy. "The algorithm has a 99.7% compatibility success rate. Trust the process." The ceremony commenced with all the formal pomp befitting an event of galactic significance. One by one, pairings were announced with careful precision. Each match made logical sense on the massive screens displayed behind the podium: complementary skills, matching temperaments, shared interests, and compatible life goals. The GAP had clearly invested astronomical resources in ensuring that this program would succeed where human intuition alone might fail. Then the moment came. "Ethan Cole," the announcer called out, and his heart began hammering against his ribs as he made his way to the stage, legs feeling slightly unsteady beneath him. The massive screen behind the podium illuminated with his profile positioned alongside his match, and the hall descended into an astonished silence, so complete that Ethan could hear the faint hum of the facility's environmental systems. "Your partner is Princess Kara Varics, crown heir of the Drether warrior empire." The silence fractured. Someone laughed nervously, a sound like breaking glass. Another voice whispered, "Holy shit," loud enough to carry through the suddenly tense atmosphere. Ethan stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The image showed a striking woman bearing the characteristic elongated ears of the Drether species, but everything else about her radiated danger, like heat from a reactor core. Scar tissue crisscrossed her left cheek in patterns that spoke of battles survived. Military decorations adorned her formal armor, each one a medal earned through combat and conquest. Her eyes held the cold clarity of someone trained to assess threats and eliminate them with ruthless efficiency. Everyone knew Princess Kara. Her reputation preceded her across 3 star systems like a shockwave. Fierce, uncompromising, the warrior princess who had won her first combat trial at the impossibly young age of 9. By 16, she had single-handedly defeated a rebel force threatening her empire's northern provinces. At 25, she had become the undisputed champion of the Galactic Combat Tournament, a title that had held for 3 years running. She was in every measurable way the absolute opposite of the calm, compatible, peaceful partners everyone else in this hall had received. "There must be a mistake," Ethan said to the GAP coordinator, who had appeared at his elbow with a tablet full of official documentation. "The system does not make mistakes, Mr. Cole," the coordinator replied with unshakable certainty. "Princess Kara has been matched to you specifically based on comprehensive psychological and genetic analysis. The algorithm's recommendations are absolute." "But everyone else got someone they could actually work with, someone peaceful," Ethan protested, gesturing toward the happy couples surrounding them. "Someone who doesn't look like they're actively planning how to end my existence." "The algorithm sees what humans sometimes cannot," the coordinator said, offering a smile that was probably meant to be reassuring, but instead came across as faintly sinister. "You must trust the process, Mr. Cole. Your shuttle to the Joint Training Facility departs in 3 hours. I suggest you prepare yourself. 2 days later, Ethan found himself standing in the corridors of a neutral space station specifically designed to facilitate first meetings between GAP partners. The facility was nothing short of stunning, a masterpiece of multi-species architecture and environmental design, created to be equally comfortable for beings from across the known galaxy. Despite its undeniable beauty, Ethan was decidedly uncomfortable. He stood outside Meeting Room 7, the transparent door allowing him a clear view of the figure inside. Princess Kara was pacing back and forth with the restless energy of a predator confined to too small a space. Even her pacing looked aggressive, each stride purposeful and precise, calculated to maximum effect. He took a deep breath and muttered to himself, "Okay, she's just another person. A person who could probably kill you in about 16 different ways using only her pinky finger, but still, just another person. Be professional. Be polite. Whatever you do, don't stare at the scars." He pressed the door chime. "Enter," came a sharp, commanding voice from within. Ethan stepped inside, and up close, Princess Kara was even more intimidating than her image on the screen had suggested. She stood several inches taller than him, her body built like someone who considered combat training a casual leisure activity rather than serious work. The scar on her face revealed itself to be far more complex than it had appeared from a distance, multiple scars overlapping in a pattern that suggested a fight most people wouldn't have survived, let alone walked away from. "You're the human," she said, assessing him with a look that suggested she was thoroughly unimpressed by what she was seeing. "I'm Ethan Cole." "Your assigned partner," he replied, extending his hand in what he hoped was a gesture of peaceful greeting. "It's nice to meet you, Princess Kara." She stared at his extended hand as though it were a dead fish that had been left in the sun too long. "I don't do physical contact rituals with people I don't know," she said flatly. Ethan lowered his hand, already beginning to suspect that this partnership would be significantly more challenging than he had hoped. "Right. Okay. No handshake then." "Let me be clear, human," Kara began, and Ethan immediately held up a hand. "Ethan. My name is Ethan," he interjected gently. Her eyes narrowed to dangerous slits. "Let me be clear, Ethan. I didn't volunteer for this program. I was ordered to participate by my father, the king. He seems to believe that strengthening diplomatic relations between Drether and humanity is somehow worth my time. I think it's a waste of my considerable talents. Here's what I see when I look at you: a technician with basic engineering skills and minimal combat experience beyond mandatory military service. I have been training in the art of warfare since I was old enough to hold a weapon. There is no logical reason whatsoever that we should be paired together for this year-long partnership." Ethan surprised himself by matching her directness. "I completely agree with you. I was expecting someone I could actually work with, someone calm and rational who wouldn't look at me like I'm an obstacle to be eliminated. This pairing makes no sense to either of us." Princess Kara's expression shifted, surprise flickering across her sharp features. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be?" Ethan countered. "I mean, you're clearly dangerous, extremely dangerous, but we're supposed to be partners for the next year. It seems counterproductive to be absolutely terrified of my own partner." "Most beings are terrified of me," Kara said, and something in her voice suggested this was meant as simple fact rather than boast. "Most beings aren't stuck working with you for a year," Ethan replied. "I'm stuck with you, which means we have to find a way to make this work, whether we like it or not." For a long moment, Kara simply stared at him, her dark eyes searching his face as though looking for signs of deception or hidden fear. Then something that might have been the ghost of a smile flickered briefly across her scarred face. "Perhaps you're not completely useless," she said finally. Ethan couldn't help but grin. High praise from a warrior princess. "I'll definitely put that on my resume." "You're what?" Kara asked, confused. "Never mind. So what now? Where do we go from here?" Kara moved to a nearby table where mission parameters were already displayed in holographic form. "We establish ground rules. I lead all combat situations. You handle technical challenges. We complete our assigned missions efficiently, prove we're capable of functioning as a partnership, and then go our separate ways. At the end of the year, we never have to see each other again. That's your entire plan?" Ethan asked, studying her face. "Just grit our teeth and suffer through this for 12 months. Do you have a better suggestion?" Kara challenged. "Actually, yes. How about we actually talk to each other? Try to understand why the algorithm pair us together? Maybe figure out if there's actually a legitimate reason we're supposed to work as a team instead of just assuming the system malfunctioned. The algorithm made a mistake, Kara said with absolute certainty. Systems fail, even sophisticated ones. It happens. The algorithm has a 99.7% success rate, Ethan countered, which means 1 in 300 pairings might not work out. Congratulations, Kara. We might be that one. Their first mission was supposed to be relatively routine, a diplomatic package delivery to a neutral world, the kind of simple assignment designed to let new partners learn to work together without the burden of high-stakes or life-or-death decisions. It was a complete disaster. Kara wanted to take the direct route through a region of space known for minor pirate activity. Ethan, studying the tactical data, suggested a longer but considerably safer alternate route. Kara overruled him with the absolute authority of someone accustomed to having her commands obeyed, without question. They were intercepted by pirates almost immediately. Kara wanted to fight. Ethan wanted to negotiate. Kara fought anyway, moving through the combat with extraordinary efficiency, disabling the pirate vessel, while Ethan frantically worked to keep their own ship's systems intact during the violent confrontation. They completed the mission. The package was delivered. Technically, it was a success. The partnership itself remained a failure. You don't listen, Ethan said as they returned to the training facility, frustration evident in every syllable. You're too cautious, Kara countered, her own voice sharp with dismissal. Warriors act decisively. Recklessly, Ethan corrected. You're reckless. I kept us alive. You created the danger in the first place by completely ignoring my route suggestion. Your route would have taken 4 additional hours and avoided combat entirely, Kara shot back. They were shouting now, and other partnerships had stopped to stare at them. Perfect, compatible partnerships working smoothly together, while Ethan and Princess Kara proved they were the galaxy's absolute worst possible match. That night, Ethan received an official message from GAP administration. We understand your pairing has shown initial challenges. Please remain patient. The algorithm's accuracy rate is 99.7% for a reason. Sometimes the most valuable partnerships require the most personal growth. Trust the process. Ethan stared at the message, reading it 3 times over. Trust the process. Easy to say when you weren't partnered with a warrior princess who looked at you like you were an annoying obstacle cluttering up her life. But something nagged at him, something insistent. The algorithm didn't make mistakes. Everyone said so. If he and Kara were matched, there had to be a reason beneath the surface. He just had absolutely no idea what that reason could possibly be. In her own quarters light years away in spirit, if not in physical distance, Princess Kara received a different message from her father, the king. Daughter, this program is important for the future of the Drether Empire. You cannot fail. Learn to work with your human partner. Demonstrate adaptability and flexibility. This is not a request. This is a command from your king. Kara read the message 3 times, her jaw clenched so tightly it felt as though her teeth might crack. Then, with deliberate care, she pulled up Ethan Cole's complete file again and studied it in meticulous detail. Former military pilot, engineering specialist, consistently high marks in strategic problem-solving and tactical thinking. His psychological profile indicated unusual adaptability, genuine empathy, and creative lateral thinking, none of which logically explained why the sophisticated algorithm would pair him with her. Unless, no, the system had to be fundamentally wrong about this. There was no logical reason a cautious engineer and a warrior princess should be compatible in any meaningful way. But if her father was right, if this program truly mattered for the future of galactic peace, then she needed to try. Even if it was profoundly uncomfortable. Even if it meant working with someone who challenged every instinct her warrior training had drilled into her over a lifetime. Kara closed the file with careful deliberation and made a decision that felt like admitting defeat. Tomorrow, she would attempt to understand Ethan Cole. And maybe, just maybe, she would figure out why the galaxy's supposedly perfect algorithm thought they belonged together. The second mission was worse than the first, a rescue operation in an active conflict zone. 60 civilians trapped by fighting between 2 local military factions. What should have been straightforward became anything but, we go in, extract the civilians, get out, Kara said during the briefing, her approach characteristically direct and uncomplicated. Simple and efficient. There are 60 hostiles in the area, Ethan pointed out, studying the tactical display with growing concern. A direct assault will trigger a full firefight with civilians caught directly in the crossfire. People will die. Then we disable the hostiles efficiently, Kara said, as though this settled matter. Or, Ethan suggested, we create a distraction, use a side entrance they don't expect, and avoid triggering any conflict at all. We extract civilians without any bloodshed whatsoever. Your method takes longer and provides more opportunities for complications, Kara objected. Your method guarantees violence, Ethan countered. They argued for 20 minutes straight, neither willing to concede. Eventually, Kara pulled rank. She was technically the mission commander. They would do it her way. The insertion went well enough initially. Kara's combat skills were, Ethan had to grudgingly admit, genuinely extraordinary. She moved through the hostile zone like violence itself had been made graceful, neutralizing threats before they could fully react or call for reinforcements. But then the complication Ethan had specifically worried about happened anyway. Reinforcements arrived, significantly more hostile forces than the intelligence reports had suggested. They were pinned down. Civilians huddled behind improvised cover. Enemy fire coming from 3 different directions. Kara fought with brilliant precision, but there were simply too many hostiles, too many weapons, too much incoming fire. And then an explosion, not quite large enough to bring down the structure, but certainly large enough to send debris cascading down on their position. Kara took a piece of shrapnel across her shoulder. Not a critical wound, but enough to slow her movements, enough to compromise her combat effectiveness. "Fall back," Ethan shouted, already moving toward her position. "Now, move." "I can keep fighting," Kara protested, even as blood ran down her arm. "You're injured and we're outnumbered," Ethan said with command authority she hadn't known he possessed. "Fall back now." For once, Kara actually listened. Maybe because the tactical situation had turned genuinely dire. Maybe because she heard something new in Ethan's voice, genuine command authority, and unwavering determination. Ethan got her to cover, then immediately accessed his technical toolkit. "Cover me for 30 seconds, he said, moving toward the facility's main terminal. "What are you doing?" Kara demanded, still fighting despite her injury. "Something that should have been the plan from the start," Ethan replied, his fingers flying across the interface. He hacked into the building systems, old infrastructure, poorly secured, easily compromised. He triggered alarms in the adjacent sector, opened blast doors to create new exit routes for the civilians, and here was the clever part. He remotely activated maintenance drones, sending them buzzing through the corridors in tactical patterns that looked precisely like coordinated reinforcements approaching. The hostile forces, already spread thin from Kara's initial assault, made a logical tactical decision. They withdrew and regrouped rather than face what looked like overwhelming superior numbers. "Now we extract," Ethan said. "Side entrance, just like I suggested 40 minutes ago." They got the civilians out. No further casualties beyond what had already occurred. The mission was technically successful, though Kara's shoulder wound would require proper medical attention. On the shuttle back to the facility, Kara sat in uncharacteristic silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice different somehow, quieter, more vulnerable. "You saved my life," she said simply. "You got injured," Ethan replied. "I'm your partner. It's what partners do." In Drether culture, a life debt is significant. Very significant. "I owe you," Kara said, and there was weight in those words, cultural significance Ethan was only beginning to understand. "You don't owe me anything," Ethan said, though he was genuinely surprised by her tone. "But if you're really grateful, maybe next time you'll consider my tactical suggestions before dismissing them out of hand." Kara looked at him for a long moment, really looked at him. Then, incredibly, the hint of a genuine smile flickered across her scarred face. "Perhaps I will," she said. It wasn't much, but something fundamental had shifted between them, like tectonic plates finally aligning after years of pressure. The third mission was diplomatic in nature, mediating a dispute between 2 rival factions teetering on the brink of full-scale conflict. Kara's instinct was to solve things through a decisive show of force and military strength. Ethan convinced her to try negotiation first, to approach the problem from an angle of understanding rather than domination. To her visible surprise, talking actually worked. "You fought without fighting," Kara observed afterward, studying him with new respect. "You used words as weapons. Strategy without violence. It's unusual. Sometimes the best battles are the ones you don't have to fight," Ethan explained. "A strange philosophy for a warrior," Kara mused. "I'm not a warrior," Ethan said. "That's kind of the whole point of my approach." "Yet you demonstrated warrior qualities," Kara said. "Strategic thinking under pressure. Protection of civilians. Decisive action when necessary. Perhaps the algorithm saw something I initially missed." Over the following weeks and months, something unexpected and wonderful happened. They started actually working together as a genuine team. Not smoothly, they still argued constantly, intensely, passionately, but the arguments transformed into debates, opportunities to test ideas and challenge each other's thinking rather than simply clashing egos against impenetrable walls. Kara taught Ethan combat techniques and fighting philosophy. "You're not hopeless," she said after he successfully completed a training drill, which he was beginning to understand was actually high praise from the warrior princess. "Your reflexes are adequate, and you learn quickly. Better than most." Ethan taught Kara about human strategic philosophy and the power of indirect approaches. "Not everything needs to be solved with force," he explained. "Sometimes the indirect approach is stronger, and sometimes people mistake caution for wisdom." "And sometimes direct action is the most efficient solution," Kara countered, refusing to be completely converted to his philosophy. "You're both right," interrupted another team, Marcus and his Valerian partner, who had been watching their sparring session. "You balance each other out perfectly. That's the entire point of the program." After they left, Kara turned to Ethan with genuine curiosity. "Do we balance each other? Do we actually work?" "I'm beginning to think we might," Ethan said carefully. Kara paused, then asked something that suggested real vulnerability beneath her warrior exterior. "Why did you volunteer for this program? You're not a warrior. You could have stayed on Earth, worked on engineering projects without any risk whatsoever. Why seek this out?" "Because staying on Earth was predictable," Ethan said. "Safe. Boring. I wanted something unexpected, a real challenge that would push me to grow. And you got that for me. Completely." "I definitely got challenged," Ethan agreed with a laugh. "What about you? Besides your father's command, why did you actually agree to participate?" Kara was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice carried unusual vulnerability, cracks in the armor of invincibility she always wore. "Because I'm a princess. My entire life has been duty, expectation, and obligation. I'm never just Kara. I'm always Princess Kara, warrior, heir, symbol of Drether's strength and power. This program was supposed to be something different, something that would allow me to be something other than what everyone expects me to be. A chance to be seen as more than just a weapon." Ethan said gently, "But the algorithm matched you with someone who challenges you. Someone who makes you think strategically instead of just relying on raw strength. Someone who forces you to be more than what you've always been told you should be." "Yes," Kara said. "I didn't want to be challenged. I wanted to be seen differently." "But you are being seen differently," Ethan said. "You're being seen as yourself. That's what I see. You're an incredible warrior, yes, but you're also brilliant at tactics, at strategic thinking, at leadership. You're so much more than just your combat skills. The algorithm knew that." Kara's head snapped toward him, surprise evident in her expression. "How did you?" "Because I'm beginning to see it," Ethan continued. "I see you. Even when you're difficult and argumentative and dismissive of my ideas, especially then, because you're not doing it to be cruel. You're doing it because you've been trained your entire life to believe that showing anything besides strength is weakness. But it's not. Your ability to consider other perspectives, to adapt, to see beyond combat, that's strength too. That's real strength." Kara was silent, processing his words. Then she said quietly, "I think I understand now why the algorithm paired us." "Yeah." Ethan asked softly, "You see me. Not what I represent. Not what people expect. You see me. Kara, the person. That's rare. That's valuable," she said, meeting his eyes. "And you do the same. You push me to be better, stronger, not just physically, but in how I think about problems and challenges. That's valuable too." They stood in the training room together, and for the first time since they had met, the space between them felt less like a battlefield and more like a bridge connecting two different worlds. "We're a terrible match," Kara said, but she was almost smiling now. "The worst possible match," Ethan agreed, smiling back at her. "The algorithm clearly malfunctioned," Kara added. "Total system failure," Ethan confirmed. They both laughed then, genuine, real laughter that echoed through the training facility, causing other partnerships to stop and stare at the warrior princess and the human engineer who had somehow, impossibly, begun to become a genuine team. Month 5 brought their most dangerous mission to date. Infiltrate a hostile outpost, extract critical intelligence, get out without being detected. High risk, critical importance for galactic security. The briefing made clear this wasn't training wheels anymore. This was real. This mattered. People's lives depended on their success. I'll handle close-quarters combat if we're discovered, Kara said during the mission briefing, reviewing the tactical parameters. You manage technical infiltration and data extraction. Agreed. Agreed. But let's try not to be discovered in the first place, Ethan said. Obviously, Kara replied, then paused. She looked at him with unusual intensity. Ethan, if this goes wrong. It won't, Ethan said firmly. If it does, Kara continued, I need you to know something. Working with you has been better than I expected. Significantly better. Was that almost a compliment? Ethan asked gently. It was an acknowledgement of competence and value, Kara said precisely. I'll take it, Ethan smiled. For what it's worth, you've been better than expected too. Even if you still argue with every single suggestion I make. You'd be disappointed if I didn't, Kara said. Probably true, Ethan agreed. The infiltration went perfectly for the first 20 minutes. They moved through the outpost like ghosts, Ethan's technical skills bypassing security systems while Kara's combat training kept them invisible to patrols. They were a machine, perfectly synchronized, each knowing exactly what the other would do. Then everything collapsed. A security alert triggered not by them, but by an insider. Someone had warned the outpost they were coming. The entire mission had been compromised. Someone had leaked their intelligence. Suddenly, they were in a full firefight. Hostile forces everywhere, far more than anyone had anticipated, and all escape routes sealed off. Kara fought with the fierce precision Ethan had come to expect, moving through the chaos with deadly grace, but they were badly outnumbered. The odds were impossible. Ethan worked frantically to hack doors, create diversions, buy them precious seconds. An explosion behind them, shrapnel and fire everywhere. Ethan was thrown forward violently. When he looked back, Kara was on the ground, her leg bleeding heavily. Go, she gritted out. Complete the mission. Leave me. Absolutely not, Ethan said, moving before conscious thought could catch up. He grabbed her, pulling her upright, taking her weight onto his own shoulders. You can't carry me and fight, Kara protested. Watch me, Ethan said simply. Later, Ethan wouldn't remember the next 10 minutes clearly, just fragments. The weight of Kara against him, her arm around his neck. The sound of weapons fire all around them. His own voice shouting tactical updates. And Kara's surprising strength as she continued fighting even while injured, protecting them both with a determination that bordered on ferocious. They made it to the extraction point with seconds to spare. Both wounded, both exhausted, but alive. On the shuttle back, medical drones were already treating Kara's leg injury. She grabbed Ethan's hand, the first time she had initiated physical contact. You came back for me, she said simply. Of course I did, Ethan replied. Most warriors would have prioritized the mission. I'm not most warriors, Ethan said, and you're not just a mission objective. You're my partner. You're my friend. Kara's eyes widened slightly. Friend. Is that the right term? If it's not the right term in Drether culture, we can find a better one, Ethan said. No, Kara said slowly, as though processing something profound. It's a good term. Drethers don't have many friends. We have comrades, we have allies, we have duty-bound connections. But friends, that implies trust. Genuine affection. A chosen connection rather than assigned duty. Is that what this is? Ethan asked carefully. Yes, Kara said, and there was something vulnerable in her expression. Ethan, I need to tell you something. Back there when you came for me despite the tactical disadvantage, despite the danger, I was afraid. Really afraid. Not of dying. I've made peace with that possibility long ago. But I was afraid of you dying. Because somewhere over these past months, you've become important to me. More important than just a partner. More than just a teammate. Ethan's heart was doing complicated things in his chest, emotions he couldn't quite name rising to the surface. Kara, let me finish, she continued. In Drether culture, we value honesty about our feelings. We don't hide emotions the way some species do. So I'm telling you directly, I care about you more than I should. More than is probably wise for a warrior princess and a human engineer who were supposed to be temporary partners in a year-long program. I care about you too, Ethan said quietly, because there was no point in denying what had become increasingly obvious over months of working together, fighting together, learning to understand each other. I have for a while now. I didn't say anything because everything about this is complicated. You're a princess. I'm human. There are probably 16 different political and cultural reasons why this is a terrible idea. That's a good summary, Kara said with something like a smile. Yes, but the algorithm knew, Kara said suddenly. That's why it paired us. It saw this potential, this connection we were both too blind to see. It saw who we could become together. You think the system predicted we'd fall for each other? Ethan asked. I think the system saw compatibility that went much deeper than our surface-level incompatibility, Kara said. And it was right. Before Ethan could respond, their comms crackled urgently with an emergency message. Return to base immediately. Critical situation. The saboteur has been identified. Lord Rex, one of the senior GAP administrators, had been leaking mission details to hostile factions. He had been actively trying to sabotage the entire program because he believed human-alien partnerships weakened traditional power structures. Several partnerships had been compromised. Some had been seriously injured. The program itself teetered on the brink of collapse. Kara immediately contacted her father. Ethan listened to her side of the rapid-fire conversation in Drether, understanding none of the words but hearing the tension and gravity in her voice. They sat in silence for a long moment after the call ended. Ethan, I don't know how this works, Kara said very quietly. How we work, I mean. You're human. I'm Drether royalty. Our worlds are different. Our lifespans are different. There are complications I can't even begin to predict. I know, Ethan said, taking her hand carefully. But I want to try. Whatever this is between us, I want to see where it goes. I want to build something real with you, not just something that ends when the year does. Me too, Kara said, and her hand squeezed his. We'll figure it out like we've figured out everything else. Arguing constantly, and somehow making it work. Building something stronger from a friction between us. That's our pattern, Kara said, and genuine laughter escaped her. Open and unguarded. So what does that make us? Stuck with each other, Ethan said, grinning. For better or worse. That sounds like the worst possible outcome, Kara said, grinning back. Absolutely terrible, Ethan agreed. I love you, Kara said suddenly. You ridiculous human. The words hung in the air between them, the first time either had said them directly, the first time either had made such an unguarded declaration. I love you too, Ethan said, you impossible warrior princess. And in that moment, surrounded by the chaos of a program in crisis, two beings from fundamentally different worlds acknowledged what the algorithm had known from the start. Sometimes the best matches are the ones that challenge you the most. And sometimes being challenged is exactly what you need to become who you're truly meant to be. Together, the GAP survived its crisis. Lord Rex was tried and imprisoned. New security protocols were implemented across all facilities. The partnerships continued, but everyone looked at Ethan and Kara differently now. They were no longer the worst possible match in the program. They were the warrior princess and the human engineer who had somehow, impossibly, become one of the program's most effective teams. By month 6, they were being held up as an example for struggling partnerships. Other teams were told, look at Cole and Kara. They started as the most incompatible match in the entire program. Now they're legendary. I don't like being an example, Kara muttered as they prepared for another mission. You don't like being famous. I like being respected as a warrior. Being famous for relationship status is weird and uncomfortable. Welcome to human celebrity culture, Ethan said. It gets significantly weirder from here. I'm not human, Kara pointed out. No, but you're in a relationship with one now, Ethan said. So by association, weirdness happens. Kara threw training weight at him. He dodged, laughing. This had become normal for them, banter, challenges, affection expressed through friendly competition. Other teams had dinner dates and romantic walks. Ethan and Kara had combat training sessions where they tried to outwit and outmaneuver each other, pushing each other to be better, faster, stronger. It worked perfectly for them. At the final program evaluation, Dr. Lena Voss, the brilliant mind behind the algorithm, gave a presentation to all the partnerships. She was an elderly human woman, her image projected on massive screens around the auditorium as she spoke. The Galactic Alignment Program was designed not just for peace between our worlds, but for personal growth and development, she said. The algorithm doesn't simply match compatible personalities. It identifies potential for mutual development and transformation. It sees who you can become if you're brave enough to try. She pulled up a complex graph on the screens. One pairing in particular has fascinated us from the very start. Commander Cole and Princess Kara had on paper one of the lowest compatibility scores in the entire program's history. Different combat philosophies, different communication styles, different everything. They were supposedly incompatible in virtually every measurable way. Ethan and Kara, sitting together in the audience, exchanged knowing glances. But the algorithm saw something much deeper, Dr. Voss continued. Complementarity. where one partner possessed raw strength, the other possessed flexibility and adaptation. Where one had discipline refined through military tradition, the other had creativity forged through engineering problem-solving. Together, they balance each other perfectly. Together, they became stronger than either could ever be alone. The graph displayed their success metrics over the 6-month program period, starting dangerously low, then climbing steadily with each mission until their combined effectiveness matched or exceeded even the most perfectly compatible pairings in the program. The algorithm doesn't look for who you are right now, in this moment, Dr. Voss concluded. It looks for who you have the potential to become together. And sometimes that means pairing opposites who will challenge each other to grow in ways neither could have achieved alone. After the presentation ended, people swarmed them with endless questions. How did you make it work? What was your secret? Did you really hate each other at first? We didn't hate each other, Kara said in a tone that suggested anyone who contradicted her would absolutely regret it. We simply didn't understand each other yet. Understanding came with time and effort. Also, she kind of scared the hell out of me initially, Ethan added with a laugh. You weren't scared, Kara corrected. You were cautious. There's a distinct difference. I was terrified, Ethan admitted. You could kill me in about 15 seconds flat. 12 seconds, Kara corrected with something that was definitely a smile now. But I wouldn't. You're mine now. The possessive statement should have been alarming to Ethan. Instead, he found it endearing and strangely perfect. This was growth, he supposed. A year ago, that statement would have sent him running. Now it just made him smile, with genuine warmth. Later, after the crowds finally dispersed, they stood on the observation deck where they had had so many important conversations over the past 6 months. The stars spread out before them in all their infinite glory. We did it, Ethan said simply. Full program. We're officially the galaxy's most improved partnership. I prefer to think of it as the best partnership, Kara said with characteristic confidence, but I'll accept improved for now. Still competitive, I see, Ethan observed. Always. That will never change, Kara replied with certainty. Kara turned to face him fully. Ethan, the program ends next week. We'll return to our respective worlds. I'll have royal duties and responsibilities to Drether. You'll have Earth and your life there. We'll be separated by the vast emptiness of space. I know, Ethan said quietly. I hate it, but I know. I don't want that, Kara said with a warrior's determination. I don't want us to be separated. Me neither, Ethan agreed. So what do we do? Ethan took her hands, a gesture that had become natural and comfortable over months of growing closer. We figure it out like everything else. We argue about possibilities. We compromise. We find a solution that works for both of us, a way to bridge the distance between our worlds. You're too optimistic, Kara said, but her tone was affectionate. You're too pessimistic, Ethan countered. But between us, we're balanced. Kara laughed, a genuine open sound. I love you. You ridiculous human. I love you too, Ethan said, you impossible warrior princess. What happens now? Now we prove the algorithm right, Kara said. It didn't just match us for 6 months. It matched us for whatever comes after, for the lifetime we might build together. We just have to be brave enough to actually build that life. I'm a warrior, Kara said simply. Brave is literally what I do. I'm an engineer. Problem solving is what I do, Ethan said. So let's solve this problem together. Let's make us work, no matter how many worlds separate us. 2 years later, they were still solving problems together, still building something real and lasting. Kara spent half her time on Earth, learning human culture in depth and serving as a formal diplomatic liaison between their 2 worlds. Ethan spent half his time on Drether, working on engineering projects that benefited both civilizations and training with Kara's military forces, becoming stronger and more capable with each passing day. It wasn't always easy. 2 different worlds, 2 distinct cultures, constant compromise and adjustment. But they made it work because the algorithm had been right all along about their potential. 5 years later, they were married. The first official human-Drether royal union, a ceremony that blended traditions from both species and was broadcast across the galaxy to billions of observers. The ceremony was beautiful, the commitment made between them absolute and binding. 10 years later, they were teaching new GAP participants alongside other veteran partnerships. When struggling partnerships complained about their obvious incompatibility, Kara would tell them about the warrior princess, an engineer who everyone thought was the worst possible match ever created by the algorithm. The algorithm sees what you cannot see right now, she would tell them. It sees who you can become if you're brave enough to try, if you're willing to push past your preconceptions about who you think you should be. And Ethan would add, sometimes the best partnerships are the ones that challenge you most, that make you grow and change, and become something better than you were alone. That force you to be the best possible version of yourself. We were terrible together at first, Kara would continue. Absolutely awful. We argued constantly, we disagreed on everything, we couldn't see why we'd been paired together. But we grew together, Ethan would say. We challenged each other and learned from those challenges. And that's the real point. The algorithm doesn't match you based on who you are now. It matches you based on who you can become. The story of the warrior princess and the engineer became legendary in the gap, proof positive that the algorithm worked even when human intuition couldn't begin to understand how. But for Ethan and Kara, the explanation was simpler, more fundamental than all that. The algorithm hadn't malfunctioned. It had simply seen a truth neither of them was ready to admit at the beginning. That sometimes the perfect match is the one that challenges you most profoundly. That growth happens in discomfort and struggle. That the best partnerships are built through effort and compromise, not the ones that come easily from day one. And that two people from different worlds, with different values and different ways of seeing things, could create something more beautiful and lasting than either could have ever imagined possible alone. In the end, the warrior princess and the human engineer had discovered that the algorithm's greatest gift wasn't matching them together. It was showing them who they could become. Together.